There are landscapes in Australia that do more than look beautiful. They seem to hold something, a stillness, a gravity, a kind of emotional depth that feels larger than scenery. You do not always know how to explain it when you stand there. You only know that the place feels older than your pace, quieter than your thoughts, and more complete than anything built by human urgency. This is the Australia that lives beyond the cities, not simply regional or remote, but elemental. Places where the land itself seems to speak in form, silence, color, distance, and light. A gorge carved by time, a mountain formation rising out of desert stillness, a salt lake that feels endless even when you are standing still, a river landscape that softens the mind, a coastline that feels less like a destination and more like the edge of something sacred. These are not only secret landscapes because they are less visited, they are secret because many people never learn how to really see them. And once you do, they stay with you. You begin in the Bungle Bungle Range, where the land feels so unusual it almost resists ordinary language. Striped domes rise from the earth like something imagined rather than discovered. The shapes are rhythmic, ancient, and strangely precise, as if the landscape has been sculpted by patience itself. You imagine warm light sliding across the domes, long shadows deepening the spaces between them, and the feeling that you are looking at a place that belongs not only to geology, but to wonder. This is not the kind of landscape that overwhelms you through height or sheer size alone. It stays with you because it is so distinct, so unlike anything else. The Bungle Bungle Range belongs here because it reminds you that the soul of Australia is not only found in what feels familiar. Sometimes it is found in what feels beautifully impossible. Then the landscape gathers itself into a heavier, more powerful form at Kata Tjuta. These immense domes rise from the desert with a presence that feels deeply grounded, almost immovable in spirit, as much as in stone. The beauty here is not delicate. It is weight, silence, and shape held under enormous sky. You imagine red earth stretching toward the great rounded formations, the light changing their color hour by hour, and the feeling that the land itself is breathing slowly. Kata Tjuta does not ask to be admired quickly. It asks you to stand still long enough to feel its gravity. And that is why it belongs in this episode. Because some of Australia's deepest landscapes are not only scenic. They are emotional in a way that goes beyond easy description. They feel ancient, self-contained, and profoundly real. Then you come to Nitmiluk Gorge, where the land becomes carved, vertical, and deeply alive with river presence. Here, the water does not soften the landscape. It gives it depth. It creates movement through stone. It shapes silence into something flowing and continuous. You imagine still sections of river beneath towering sandstone walls, morning light striking the cliffs, and the feeling that every bend in the gorge holds another layer of the country's memory. This is not only a beautiful place, it is a place with weight, a place where the land seems to have been listening for a very long time. Nitmiluk belongs here because some landscapes feel like they are made not only to be seen, but to be entered slowly, with respect, with attention, and with a willingness to let the place set the pace. Then the country opens completely at Lake Eyre, where scale becomes almost abstract. This is a place where horizon, salt, sky, and light seem to dissolve into one another. You no longer feel as though you are looking at a destination. You feel as though you are standing inside a question of distance. You imagine the pale surface of the lake, changing tones under the sun, and the strange peace that comes when there is so little visual clutter between you and the horizon. The emptiness here is not empty at all. It is full of atmosphere, full of space, full of the kind of quiet that feels almost mental. Lake Eyre belongs here because the soul of Australia is often found in vastness, in the places where the land asks nothing from you except that you stand still long enough to feel how big it really is. Then the land becomes more sculptural again in Warrumbungle National Park, where peaks, ridges, and volcanic shapes rise with a distinct and almost theatrical presence. This is a place where geology feels expressive. The forms are not soft or easy. They are dramatic, but in a way that still feels deeply natural. You imagine sharp silhouettes against changing sky, walking tracks through bushland, and that beautiful sense that the landscape has a personality all its own. Warrumbungle does not feel like background scenery. It feels like a presence, and that makes it unforgettable. Because some landscapes stay in your heart not through prettiness, but through character. Through form so strong it seems to carry its own voice. Then the mood shifts into something older, quieter, and more granite-shaped in the Porongurup Range. These ancient peaks rise from the surrounding landscape with a kind of quiet authority. Forest, rock, mist, and height all combine here into a beauty that feels less dramatic than some places, but perhaps more deeply rooted. You imagine weathered granite domes, tall Kari and Jara forest nearby, cool air, and lookouts where the land falls away into broad southern distance. The Porongurup Range does not feel like a landscape trying to impress you. It feels like one that has simply endured, beautifully, for longer than you can easily comprehend. It belongs in this episode because some secret landscapes stay in your heart through age, texture, and stillness, rather than spectacle. They do not overwhelm, they deepen. Then the atmosphere softens and sharpens at the same time in the Glasshouse Mountains. These peaks rise out of the surrounding landscape in a way that feels almost symbolic, as if they have been placed there to hold the eye and the imagination. You imagine a broad green landscape with isolated volcanic forms rising into light, mist gathering softly at their base, and the feeling that this is one of those rare places where shape itself becomes emotional. The mountains do not dominate through mass alone. They stay with you through silhouette, through spacing, through the elegance of how they sit in the land. And that is why they belong here. Because the soul of Australia is not only in scale, it is also in composition, in how the land arranges itself so beautifully that you remember it long after you leave. Then you return to South Australia and arrive at Wilpena Pound, where the landscape feels enclosed yet expansive at the same time. This natural amphitheater holds ridges in a great curved form, creating a place that feels both open to the sky and held by stone. You imagine sunrise moving across the ranges, dry creek lines, old walking paths, and the feeling that the country here has gathered itself into one immense, embracing shape. Wilpena Pound has presence. Not loud presence, but enduring presence. It feels like a place that has been waiting far longer than any traveler's arrival. It belongs in this episode because some landscapes hold emotional depth through form alone, and this one feels like a heart made of ranges. Then, the landscape becomes more reflective at Lake Pedder, where water, mountain, weather, and distance create a mood that feels at once remote and deeply inward. This is the kind of place where the light seems to think before it lands. Everything feels quiet, but not empty. Present, but not insistent. You imagine dark water under changing sky, mountain forms softened by mist, and the kind of remoteness that does not isolate you, but clears you. Lake Pedder belongs here because some secret landscapes stay with you through atmosphere more than detail, through tone, through stillness, through the feeling that the place is larger than ordinary time. This is a landscape that does not rush to be understood. It simply remains. Finally, the episode closes at Cape Range National Park, where range and reef, arid land and ocean all meet in one extraordinary edge landscape. This is the kind of place that feels both exposed and complete. Dry limestone range behind you, clear sea before you, light everywhere. You imagine a coastline where the land looks almost severe, yet the water brings brightness and relief. That tension is what makes the place feel so deeply Australian. Harshness and beauty, exposure and calm, distance and intimacy, all held together in one frame. Cape Range closes the episode perfectly because it leaves you with the full emotional range of the continent. The soul of Australia is not one landscape. It is many. And some of the deepest ones live quietly, far beyond the cities, waiting for those who are willing to really see them. And now, when you think of the soul of Australia, the image becomes larger and deeper than any single landmark. It includes striped domes, desert forms, river gorges, salt horizons, volcanic peaks, ancient granite, quiet lakes, and coastlines where dry land meets bright water at the far edge of the country. 10 landscapes, 10 different moods, 10 reminders that beauty is not always the deepest thing a place can offer. Sometimes a landscape gives you something harder to name. A feeling of depth, gravity, stillness, and truth. Some of these places feel ancient, some feel severe, some feel luminous, volcanic, reflective, or immense. But all of them stay with you for the same reason. They make you feel the land not only with your eyes, but somewhere deeper. If this journey spoke to you, stay with Discover Australia deeply as you continue exploring Australia beyond the surface, one meaningful place at a time.